Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at the Seiko SKX009 versus the Seiko SSK003. Now, the Seiko SKX, actually not this one on my left hand, but the one on my wrist here, I bought this in 2011 for $130. And the SSK003 I purchased for $475. So both of these watches have blue dials, and they both have the SKX case. The SSK was designed after the SKX, and you can see that we do have drilled lugs on this case now. Other than the drilled lugs, cases look very, very similar. I'm not sure if it's the same tooling that they make the cases on, but look very similar. So they both have hardlex crystal. This one does have a cyclops that's also hardlex, aluminum bezel insert, and then this has a aluminum bezel insert which is covered by hardlex. So that really allows this color to pop here, the light blue on the lower half of the bezel. It's a very cool looking bezel insert here. And they both do have the Seiko Lume, so I'll be curious to see how these stack up against each other here. The indices on the SSK are larger. They are painted on. Let's zoom in here. So those indices are painted on. This one here has the hardlex crystal. The one I showed you earlier has a sapphire crystal, so that's why I'm using this one for display purposes here. But you can see this one's a little bit different. It does have the Arabic day of the week, and also it's printed made in Japan down there at the 6 o'clock, and mine does not say that. So I think it's just a difference of one being sold in the US and this being sold, I would guess, in the Middle East. I think the rules are a little bit different on what's considered to be made in Japan. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. So let's bring over the SSK. You can see this does have applied indices, or maybe they're stamped up from the backside. I'm not really sure, but they look to be applied. And this does have the Seiko 5 logo. So very cool watch. Both of these watches I do enjoy. I'm a big fan of the SKX. So there you see Seiko Automatic versus the Seiko 5 on the left there. So the SKX is actually divers. It's a divers 200 meter, so it's rated to 200 meters water resistance. Has a screw down crown, and GMT here just has a push pull crown, but it's rated to 100 meter water resistance, which is totally fine for me. I think this is more practical for every day. You can very easily just wind the crown versus having to unscrew the crown on the other one, and you could potentially end up stripping that crown depending on how often you screw in and out. And so it's just something to think about. But I know some folks say they need that 200 meter water resistance, so you can purchase, well, not the SKX anymore. I guess you can still find them for sale from time to time. So let's talk about the movements. Let me switch the watches back around here. So the SKX009 has the 7S26 movement, 6 beats per second. Let me zoom back out here. 6 beats per second. No hacking, no hand winding. So what that means is when you unscrew the crown all the way out, the second hand is still moving. You can't stop that second hand. Then hand winding is pretty self-explanatory. It means you can wind the movement to increase the power reserve, and you can't do that with this one here. Screw that crown back in. Neither of these do have sign crowns, by the way. So I'll show you this other one. So this has the 4R34 movement, essentially a modified 4R36. They've taken the day function off and converted it into a GMT hand function. So this is an office GMT, meaning you can't change the hour hand independently. You can change the GMT hand though. So this one has it's also 6 beats per second. That means the second hand beats ticks 6 times per second. So we do have hand winding. That was the first position I was in here, hand winding. The second position, you can change the date in the GMT hand. And then the pulling it all the way out hacks that second hand, and then also that's time setting as well. So let's look at the bracelet since I have this one. Actually, yeah, we'll go talk about the bracelet now. So this one has solid end links. Solid links. Both the inner and outer links are solid. See, this one's a little bit different. This outer link is just one continuous piece here. The bracelet is very solid. It does have a stamped clasp. I personally don't mind a stamped clasp. I know some folks don't like them. This portion is stamped as well. You have the dual pushers, and then you have the safety clasp here. So no issues with that. So let's go back to my original SKX here. The other one has an aftermarket bracelet. So this bracelet has seen a lot. It's gotten quite a bit loose. Some of the links are stretched, but anyway, so this has hollow end links, and then the center links are hollow as well. They're just folded over pieces of metal. You can see that right there. You can see right through there. So that's a reason for the stretch on this. Jangle, but I really like this watch. It's starting to wear a little bit awkwardly on my wrist, but I'm just going to keep wearing it like this. The only thing I changed on this again was I didn't have to. I had a big scratch on it, so I changed the hard Lex for sapphire. Maybe I'll change that back one of these days. Just a friction fit clasp here. Old school, right? So this thing just folds over, and those little teeth here, fingers, whatever you want to call them, slide over that bar there. Then you have a safety clasp. It's worked perfectly fine all these years. Never had it fall off my wrist. Well, that's not true. Actually, it did fall off my wrist once, but that's because these guys stretched out and I kind of pressed them back. But no fault of the clasp. Let me close this one back up. Oh, that reminds me. When I was wearing this watch, I tried to take it off. I would always forget to do the pushers because it's the SKX shape and I'm so used to this watch. But that reminds me of something else here. Let's set this one to the side because that bezel is messed up. So the SKX bezel, 120 click unidirectional. This watch is like new old stock. It's just minty fresh. But nice smooth bezel action there. 120 click, bidirectional. I'm sorry, unidirectional. Only goes in one direction. This one's bidirectional. You can turn it both ways. And it is a friction fit bezel. So no click springs to hold it in place. And yep, it means you can get it aligned perfectly, but I think I would always constantly be kind of just micro adjust this thing until it's perfect. So take it or leave it. Same thing with that cyclops. Some folks don't like it. I don't mind it either way. It doesn't bother me that much anymore. Years ago, I used to think it was a stupid thing, but getting older and stuff, it's a lot easier to see the date. So yeah, I don't mind it. All right, let's talk about the dimensions, and then we'll take a look at the Lume here. Sorry, I keep switching hands. So, and keep in mind with the calipers, it might be off by a tenth of a millimeter or so. So on the SKX, looking at 45.7 lug to lug, SSK 45.8 lug to lug. Of course, I put this other watch on my measurements. Case, I'm getting the same dimensions on the cases, 42.5 millimeter. The bezel, I measured it a couple different times on both watches, both of my SKXs here. I'm getting 41 on this bezel. I'm getting 41.3 on this bezel. I'm not sure why that is, but that's what I'm getting. The bezel inserts are the same from what I understand. The depth is different, but the diameter of the bezel inserts are the same. And this one has more depth to it to account for the hard lex over the aluminum bezel insert. The thickness on the SKX, not that one because it has aftermarket crystal. This one here, looking at 13.5 on the SKX with the flat hard lex, and then this one here, 13.8 with the flat hard lex, not including the cyclops. And lug widths are the same. Sorry, go back to my old school one here. Lug widths are the same, 22 millimeter, and they both do taper down to 18 millimeter. And they both have a 7 millimeter crown right there. Look like twins here. And the weight of my SKX, both of these are sized for my 6.5 inch wrist. SKX I'm getting 138 grams, and SSK I'm getting 146 grams. So there is a quick overview of both of these watches. Let me know in the comment section which one of these you prefer. And you can see this one does have the female end link with the solid end link here, and I believe this is a strap code bracelet on this one, but they have the male end links. The female looks better to me here. Also wears a little bit better on wrist. It should wear better on wrist. I really can't tell the difference, but I'll say that it does wear better on wrist. Oh yeah, this has a display case back. Forgot to mention that earlier. So display case back on this one, and the SKX does not. Alright, I think that concludes this portion of the video, so we'll take a look at the Lume here. Really curious to see the difference between these two. Okay, I just figured I would throw in my other backup SKX here on the right for the fun of it. So the SSK is in the middle, which you can probably tell from the fourth hand there. That GMT hand is loomed. And then my old SKX is all the way on the left, the SKX009. I would say the Lume's pretty much the same here by eye. Actually, I'm going to take the SSK out of here in a second. I think my SKX on the left, the Lume's not quite as good as the one on the right. So looking at the middle watch and the watch on the right, I'd say they're the same. And then my old SKX, it looks like it's a little bit dimmer here. So let's take out the SSK and slide these two together. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're the same. It's hard to say, but regardless of that, the Lume is very good on all three of these watches here. Two of these watches, however you want to look at it, because these two watches are the same. But there we have it, my SKX versus SSK comparison. Hopefully you found this video educational or entertaining. And as always, thank you for your time and thank you for watching.